So we've seen this plot many times before. How did they do it? Did they do it better? Eek. Mission Impossible Fallout. Hello movie fans, it's been a while, but I'm glad you're back, and we're gonna analyze yet another exciting movie for this summer. This time a movie that I have been looking forward to for a long time. I'm a fan of the action genre, alright? And I'm a big fan of the Mission Impossible franchise. I'm a fan of Tom Cruise, and his movies are always very entertaining, very fun, great time at the theater. And I mean, I'm such a fan that even my best friend and I, years ago, we even spoofed one of the Mission Impossible movies into one of our own versions. That's how much I love it. And every summer when the movie comes out, I go and I see it and I have a great time. I know I'm going to have a good time. Some of them have been better than others. But then Ghost Protocol came out and I was like, alright, we're stepping it up a notch, alright? This is very different. We're moving in a different direction. Rogue Nation came out and it was, wow, incredible. The movie is just wicked good. If you're a film student and you want to learn how to make movies, how to shoot action sequences, how to write action films, that's a movie that you gotta own, you gotta buy, you gotta study back and forth, because it's a great learning tool and it's just a great movie overall. So when the next installment was coming out, and you know, all of this stuff started coming out online about the stunts and the action sequences, and you know, Christopher McQuarrie returning as director, I was really hyped for this movie. And then the movie actually came out. I had a chance to go see it, and I was a bit underwhelmed. So I said, alright, you know, I've been going through a lot of stuff lately in my personal life. I really wanted to see this movie. I wanted to escape a little bit from the day-to-day buzz, and I thought, alright, maybe that was it. Maybe my mind was somewhere else and I really didn't enjoy the movie. I started falling asleep during a part of the movie, so I said, I'm gonna give this movie a fair chance. So I went to see it again. I was like, focus, Rick, focus. We're gonna do this. We're really gonna soak it in, right? And I had already seen some of the non-spoiler reviews, and they were saying how the movie was great, one of the best action movies ever made. Everybody's praising this movie. So after the second watch, what did I feel? Alright, or how do I feel? What did I see here? Alright guys, this is the spoiler review, alright? Spoilers, because I want to talk a lot about the things that went on in this movie. Alright, so let's start. First level, production quality. All the positives, all the great things in the movie. The movie looks incredible. The cinematography is great. The way Christopher McQuarrie sets the cameras in different parts to shoot the action sequences is just incredible. It's so well shot, so well thought out, that everything just pops out. You know, there's none of this stupid shaky cam to hide your mistakes and shortcomings as a director. No, here everything was like wide angle, so that people could really appreciate the action, and it was great. I was like, alright, this is how an action film should be shot, you know, wide angle, so that you can really enjoy and see what's going on. So production quality, forget it, through the roof. Definitely worth seeing it. If you have a chance to go see it in IMAX, go see it in IMAX. And it's just that much of a visual experience that not very often we see in action movies today. So on that part, we're good. The sound design, again, on point. Everything hits at the right marks. Very excellent choices in terms of when there's low background sound versus the high soundtrack, and then vice versa. Very well executed. And the soundtrack itself, there are parts in the movie that even sound like a bit of Hans Zimmerish, until the Mission Impossible theme comes through and you're like, oh yeah, this is Mission Impossible. So the music, just the music itself, was really great. Just today, a few hours ago, I downloaded the official soundtrack because that's something I'm going to be listening to for quite some time now. It's just very, very well done. The acting, dude, incredible. Tom Cruise does not disappoint. He does most of his stunts. He really is hanging from that helicopter. He really did jump out of that airplane. He really is flying that helicopter. He really is running on rooftops, jumping from building to building. The guy is just committed 100% to this movie. And you can appreciate that just from the point of view of how stunts are done. You gotta appreciate that. It's him riding the motorcycle. It's him doing the driving in the chase scenes. That's him in the fights. The bathroom fight scene is incredible, well done. And everybody else that came into this production, they came in, you know, with their A game. Like, all right, let's do this. Henry Cavill, you know, the stash, which sort of destroyed Justice League, but not. Come on, let's not blame the failure of the movie on the mustache. Justice League had a whole other set of problems, but was it worth it for Henry Cavill to not shave for this movie? Sure, why not? His character was, I guess, I think very well played for the part that he was. I have a hard time seeing Henry Cavill doing something else other than Superman. I know that's kind of like, you know, not being fair to your actors, but I'm a big Superman fan, and to me, he will always be Superman. He's just such a great Superman. So I have a hard time seeing him play something else when he plays a mere mortal. So, but still, I mean, everything was good. The returning actors were great. Even there's a part where Michelle Monaghan, she reprises her role as Julia, you know, Ethan Hunt's character's wife, and she's in the movie for about 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes are very well put together on screen. So on that part, great, man. The direction, I mean, Christopher McQuarrie knows how to direct a film. This was really, really well directed from every angle. You could see how everything that they learned during production on Rogue Nation served them to prepare better for this movie. And the attention to detail is something, just that is just worth the price of admission. All right? That's the first level. I think I'm not forgetting anything else. All right. The negatives on the first level, I would say very, very little. At this point, I would just be nitpicking. But you know, on the scene where the Ethan Hunt character and Walker, you know, the Henry Cavill character, they jump out of an airplane. Tom Cruise really did jump out of the airplane. I mean, the camera guy just jumps before, and he's just like following him as he's doing all the choreographed stuff, and that's just incredible the way they shot it. However, you know, they needed to, because of the story that they were telling, when they jump, or when they did the actual jumps, it was a beautiful clear sky because they needed good visibility to do the stunts safely, for the pilots to fly safely, you know, everything that had to be done on a very good day. But on the story, you know, they do this and it's dark, and there's lightning in the sky, and Ethan Hunt even says, okay, we have to abort, we can't do the jump because there's lightning, so there's a storm, so it could be dangerous. And they still do it. But you can see that all of the background is CG, which kind of takes back, unless you know that he was actually the guy jumping out of the airplane and all that fall scene is actually shot in real time, you would probably say, oh, they shot this on a green screen, on a set, because it looks really fake. It really takes away from the amazing work that went into the stunt, because it looks so fake, the background, I mean. But that's just nitpicking at this point. All right, and that would be about my only negative when it comes to the production value of this movie. So far, so good, right? But that's not the most important level, you know. Second level, the narrative, the story, the plotline, the way it flows, you know, is it going to keep me engaged? That's where the disappointment came in, all right? It's a story that we've seen a million times before and probably done better than they did. I've heard a lot of reviewers saying how the movie was incredible. It was like white knuckle action, you know, throughout the entire film you're on the edge of your seat because it's just one action sequence after another action sequence, and they're just incredible stunts, and just the whole story keeps you engaged. I'm like, no, dude. First time I went to see it, I was falling asleep mid-through. because there was really nothing going on. The story is super, super, super predictable. I mean, there's so many problems in the storytelling, so many plot holes that you're like, okay, so I see where they dedicated the most time towards this production. Most of the attention, or 90% of the attention, was placed on the action sequences, on the stunts, and the way you were going to direct the action in the movie. Everything else was just to kind of like move the plot along. But it was super predictable. At the beginning, when they captured one of the terrorists, you know, and he's passed out in the hospital, and they are telling him, or they're playing in the background, you know, how they use these bombs, and they bombed 3 important cities around the world: Jerusalem, Mecca, and what was the other place? Russia? It was another place. From there, I was like, I've seen this before. They did this in MI3, was it, where John C. McCloy, the head of the corporation, the pharmaceutical, he's in the hospital, and Tom Cruise is wearing the mask, and you're just trying to get information out of him, and you know that they set him up. I was like, this is the same thing. That set is not real. That Wolf Blitzer from CNN on screen. That's not him. You know that's Benji on a mask. And they went through this elaborate scheme at the beginning of the movie just so they could get the password for a phone. I mean, you have technology to make realistically looking masks. You have the technology to track people around the world via satellites, and you have all of this equipment. You have one of the greatest hackers in cinema history in Luther. Remember in Rogue Nation, when they're trying to find Ilsa Faust, and the character of Brent is there with Luther, and he's like, can you find her? Is it possible to find her just with this drawing of the face from this portrait? And he's like, for a mere mortal, no. For me, I could do this from my house. And then Brent turns around and is like, so how long is it gonna take you? Done! So they can do these things. You cannot hack into a phone. Dude, we have to be careful when we're at a McDonald's because of the open Wi-Fi, because anybody can clone your phone, and you have to go through that to just get the guy's password to open up the phone. Really, really. I mean, it was just so stupid of a beginning of a movie, and I was like, no, this is dumb. And of course, this plot means the whole plot is they have this plutonium cores, these spheres of plutonium, to build nuclear bombs so they can bomb the heck out of this planet. And of course, our heroes have to stop them. What do you think is going to happen? Of course, our heroes are going to stop them. They're not going to destroy half of the planet. Of course, you got to stop the bad guy. Of course, that's going to happen. So from that point on, I was like, no. Lazy screenwriting. We're seeing something that we've seen many times before, and that's not the problem in itself. The problem was the execution, because people have done this before, and I believe they've done it better. But that was so predictable. And then, you know, Henry Cavill plays Walker, this CIA hitman who's there to basically keep tabs and make sure that Ethan Hunt doesn't go off script too much, and if he does, you know, he's authorized to come after him. So they have this love-hate relationship, but from the first 20 minutes of the movie, the first 30 minutes of the movie, when they come in, they start foreshadowing and showing you who the bad guy is, and you know that that's him, because he's trying to frame Ethan for something that everybody in the audience knows is not true. Everybody knows that he's the hero, that he cannot possibly be the bad guy. So but why would this other agent that we've just met, that who we know nothing about, is trying to convince the CIA director otherwise? You know what that's saying? That's saying that you're the bad guy. And of course, what happens? He's the bad guy. So from like the first part of the first quarter of the movie, then on, you know, it's like, okay, so I'm just waiting to see when they're going to unmask him, and you know, the next confrontation is going to happen. So all of that part, the plot, the way that the story moves, is like you're just waiting for the next action scene, because you know that's pretty much why you're there. You just want to see the action sequences, because the story in itself is really, really boring. And they have this whole thing, and they just beat it into your head and just beat it into your head that Ethan Hunt is not going to kill one person because he cares so much about that one person that he's willing to jeopardize the safety of millions to protect that one life, because that's what Ethan Hunt does. And they just do this scene after scene, and they just want to show you that he cares for that one person more than anybody else. We get it. By now we know who Ethan Hunt is. You don't need to show us this in this movie in particular so hard, except there's a hidden agenda that we're gonna get through later on. Alright, so on the second part, the narrative is very poorly executed. Everything becomes very, very predictable. You know they're gonna stop the bad guys. You know that no one is really going to be in any danger. I saw some reviewers in both spoiler and non-spoiler reviews saying how they were really tense because they didn't know if any of the heroes was going to make it at the end of the movie, because that's how much or how tense the story was. Like anybody could have died at any moment. I was like, no. When the only interesting part that happens at the beginning is when they're, they tell Ethan, oh, okay, so your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to track down this plutonium cores and make sure that they're in our power so these terrorists cannot kill the world, right? Without any exposition or without anything, he just finds them. He finds them within like the first 5 minutes of the movie, and they're ready to make the trade. We want the plutonium cores, we want this money, and they're ready to pay the money for the plutonium cores. I think that's where the movie could have ended. But of course, Luthor is keeping tabs on them, and they kidnap him, and they say, listen, they have a gun to Luthor's head. Give us the plutonium, or we're gonna blow this guy away. And Tom actually goes like, sorry, Luthor, and he shoots him, and Luthor falls to the ground. At that moment, I was like, oh, great beginning, great beginning. And in my mind, in my screenplay writer mind, I'm already going like a million miles an hour, getting ahead of me, watching the rest of the movie in my head, and the next movie after that, like the implications. One of the most beloved characters in the franchise was shot and killed by the main character. What does this mean for Ethan Hunt? This means he's never going to kill again. Is he going to go rogue now? Is he going to go in a different direction? He had to make that hard choice at the beginning of the movie. How is this going to shape the rest of the movie? That means anybody's fair game. Benji can go, Ethan could go, Ilsa could go, and not 2 seconds after they shoot him pass by, and then he runs and like, I'm sorry, Luthor, and of course he's wearing a vest. Ethan knew he had a vest. That's why he shot him. Where's the tension in that? After that, I knew everybody's safe. No one's gonna die. No, everybody's gonna be fine. You know who did it well? Keanu in Speed, when at the beginning of the movie the bomber has his partner and with the bomb and like pop quiz, hot shot. The guy's like, remember they just had the conversation previously. He's like, shoot the hostage, and Keanu's like, what? Shoot the hostage. Bam. Freeze! And even the guy's like, holy monkey, you shot your partner. And the guy's like, you freaking shot me. They actually did that so well, because you knew, okay, so our characters are not bulletproof. They can go at any moment if you're not careful. So there was real tension. Anybody in the movie could die at any moment at the whim of a madman. Over here is like, nope, everybody's going to be safe. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to anybody. So that's where the movie just went downhill for me. After that, there was nothing really interesting going on. There were parts where they were kind of like building the tension, and not 2 seconds go by before they break that tension and they show you like, we're good, all right, everybody's safe, nothing weird's going on. And like, why not let that tension build to engage you more into the story? They don't do that. So that on that aspect, on the second level, the narrative, the pacing of the movie, that's where everything was like 2 thumbs down. Like, really, I was expecting so much more out of the story. I even heard some reviewers saying, in this movie you really have to pay attention to the plot. This is a movie that respects the audience because it makes you want to think. Like, there's nothing to think because nothing's going to happen to the main characters. It's the same story that we've heard before, that you know that he's gonna save the day, that the bad guys are gonna be stopped, and everything's gonna be fine. And we know who the bad guy is from the beginning of the movie, and we know that the other bad guy is gonna go down. So, terrible. Okay, so right now we're 50-50, right? But for me, the second level is always a lot more important than the first level, because that's where the story comes from. There's even a saying in Hollywood: you can't make a good movie out of a bad script. So even if they had it with all of these amazing action sequences and amazing visuals, it doesn't pay up, or it doesn't make up, sorry, for a bad story. And that's what it was. It was just a bad story overall. I was bored half of the movie. And here's the other thing to wrap this part up of the review was, I don't know if it was, there was so many behind the scenes featurettes, and there were so many coverage on the stunts and everything, that not even the action sequences were enough to keep me excited. I could sit there and appreciate how they were shot. Like, from the director point of view, I was like, okay, if I want to do something like that, you know, that's interesting. You put the camera here, you move it like that, and you put the camera here, and then you do a tracking shot and everything. So it was like more for me like, all right, everybody, let's watch this sequence and let's study it and break it down, so we can have something similar to that. But never, ever, ever was I really engaged into the action sequences as some people claim they were. If they were, kudos to them. Maybe everything was spoiled to me because there were so many behind the scenes and interviews and a lot of things shared in the trailers, that when the helicopter scene happens and he's falling out of the helicopter, and the airplane at the beginning, and the motorcycle chase and the car chase and the running sequence, I was never really on the edge of my seat. Unlike Rogue Nation, like the bike sequence or the opening sequence, even though I've seen it a million times by now, I still get the chills every time I see those sequences, because they're so high octane and well put together, unlike this movie where everything is technically perfect and well put together, but because of the story and where the story is going and where the characters are going, there's really no tension, or there's no reason why those action sequences should take place, because, you know, they're not gonna go anywhere other than, you know, this is what we have, an action scene in the movie that looks great. Okay, now the third level, and that's what we're here. If this is your first time watching this channel, we're a Christian channel where we do a movie review, a movie analysis, but then we do the subliminal message analysis. What are the secret messages, the secret agendas in the movies? So for the first part of the review, was the movie good as a movie? I'm going to go ahead and say that no, thumb down. The movie disappointed me. It wasn't very interesting. It was very boring. I was never excited, and everything that I already mentioned and ranted for about half an hour now. Okay, so if you want to go see this movie and say, hey dude, what's the rating for the movie? I don't care about the second part of your review because I'm not into that kind of stuff. Just tell me, is the movie good? No, the movie is not good for me. That's my opinion. If you go see it and you love it, awesome, great for you. Alright, now for the second part, the symbolisms and the messages. Now, once I take off my Hollywood glasses and I put on my Christian glasses to analyze what's going on, I can see that there was more an interest of the secret agenda and symbolisms and messages than there was the attention being put on the script. Sorry. And I think that's why the movie suffers so much, because they were really interested in beating a particular idea into your head, and that's why the script or the story or the main story was not as interesting, because they were more interested in showing you images and symbolisms and agendas than they were in telling a good story. And I think that was one of the main issues. Okay, so what are these agendas? If this is the first time that you see a video like this and you've never heard the term predictive programming, go do your research. But predictive programming basically means how the media, music, movies, TV shows, magazines, books, is used by groups of power to brainwash the masses to accept the ideas and to accept the actions that are going to be taken in the future by these groups of power so they can stay in power. One of the biggest examples of this is 9/11. You know, there's a lot of cartoons like The Simpsons and other shows and cartoons and movies where For decades, the groups of power kept brainwashing the masses into saying, you know, terrorists are really bad and they want to hurt America and they're going to bomb our you know, main buildings, our oh, the word escaped. You know, our monuments and everything that is representative of our culture, our landmarks. They're gonna crash bomb trucks and car bombs and airplanes into our landmarks and buildings and everything, and they kept beating this idea into our heads. So when they actually went ahead and destroyed the Twin Towers, exactly 33 years after they were put up, because 33 is one of the sacred numbers that these Luciferians have. It was part of their satanic ritual, and they said it was terrorists. Terrorists did this to us. Humanity was ready to accept that because we had been programmed through movies that terrorists are bad and they're going to do this type of thing. So when they said it was the terrorists, we bought it. There's no prediction. They cannot see the future. It's their plans. They know what they're going to do, and they are just mocking us and rubbing it in our faces through their movies and entertainment, which is run by these Luciferians. So this movie was more predictive programming. At the beginning, when Ethan Hunt is being told the mission, he has to find these 3 plutonium cores that are going to be used to build 3 bombs, 3 nuclear bombs. The first time that I saw the movie, I noticed how when they did the close-up on one of the spheres, it had a 699, and they love to hide their numbers and their messages in everything they have. Remember, in a production, everything that is in the background is there for a reason. They put it there for a reason. They don't just go and like, oh, let's shoot here. No, these productions cost millions and billions of dollars, so they have to make sure that everything is accounted for. Everything that you see on these things and movies in the background, in the foreground, everything that they're wearing is there for a reason. And they love to hide the 666 in different forms. Ready Player One had a 666 hidden in the form of a 6651, so you know the last 6 was kind of like hidden. Aleister Crowley is a name that you gotta remember. He is one of the enemy's representatives. He was a Luciferian member of the Satanic Church. He wrote a lot of books that these people follow today. Aleister Crowley, magic, 777, and other forms of magic. And they do these terrible things. They perform these demonic Satanist rituals. And one of the teachings that he has in his books is that, you know, a Satanist has to learn how to speak backwards, read backwards, do everything backwards and in reverse, because that's how they communicate. So the fact that they have a 6 and then a 99, it just means just flip it up. It's a 666. And the first time that I saw it, I was like, it's curious that they focus on this particular sphere that has that number and not on the other 2. But then later on in the movie, when Ethan Hunt is trying to get back these plutonium spheres, they go with one of the characters, the White Widow, and they have only one, and they say, okay, in good faith, if you come through for us, then we're gonna give you the other 2. And they do again the close-up, and then once they have all the spheres, like all of them, they all had the same number. It wasn't like a serial number for individual sphere. They all had the 699. Think I'm reaching here? That was just one of the many symbolisms in this movie. Then the other subplot is, you know, how they're going to use these nuclear bombs to kill people, you know. And at the beginning of the movie, they're foreshadowing the destruction and the attacks on holy cities. This to create more tension in the world and have, you know, humanity fight against each other rather than together facing the real enemy. So there's an attack on Jerusalem, there's an attack on the Mecca, there's an attack on Russia. You know, this is their plan. This is what they're going to do, for real. So they can create the wars, you know, the Order Ab Chao, which is their motto for the Masons, you know, the order out of chaos. There's even the part where the bad guys have this manifesto as terrorists, you know, that the greater the pain, then the greater the peace. And it is revealed that Walker, you know, the Henry Cavill character, that he's the baddie. It was his words. And there's even a line where he says, we're just going to get rid of the old world order. What does that mean? They're trying to implement the new world order, the Antichrist, the beast system. That's what they're going for, and they're showing you this in the movie. There was another very interesting part towards the end of the movie when they're riding a car. Our heroes are riding a car, and they are talking about how they're going to dismantle or disarm these nuclear bombs, and they're trying to figure out why would he come to this remote place to detonate the bomb. Why not New York or a big city like that? Why are they coming to this plot? And then Ilse Faust's character, she's looking at a map, and then she's realizing, oh no, this is the biggest, she doesn't say river, but it's like the biggest source of water this part of the planet, and this water is the livelihood, or is a third of the world population, a third part of the world population depends on this water source. If this water source were to be contaminated by radioactivity, you're going to kill a third of the population, of the world population. You're going to kill off the third part of the world population. Bling, automatic red light. Me as a Christian, you know, and I want to read you a couple of things from scripture. We're going to read first Revelations 8, 8 and 9. That's where I'm going to start reading. And the second angel sounded as it were a great mountain burning with the fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Sound familiar? Alright, and Revelations 9:18, what I'm going to start reading at 17. And thus I saw the horses in division, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these three was the third part of men killed, by fire and by smoke, and by the brimstone which issued on their mouths. So you can see, folks, like, if many of the people out there don't like it when we talk about the Bible and they say, oh, hocus pocus, that's just ridiculous stuff, there is no God, all you Christians are crazy people. Well, may that as a be, maybe we are crazy, but you know, these other people, the people in Hollywood, the ones making all of these movies, they love to quote the Bible. They love to bring stuff out of the Bible into the light with their own twist on it. And the whole other subplot, you know, this is the coming judgment of God on earth because of the wickedness of men. So what is basically Ethan Hunt doing here? He's playing Satan, Lucifer, not the bad guy, but what they believe, that Lucifer is our true God, and he is going to deliver us from an evil God, which is the same agenda they put out in every movie nowadays. It was the same thing with Avengers Infinity War. You know, the heroes have to protect us from this God that is tyrannical and just wants to enslave humanity. So it's like the bad guys are the ones that are trying to do this. So that means that whoever wants to do something like that is a bad guy. So we have to trust in Ethan to save us. Because that's the false idea that they want to sell. So if we circle back again to where we started, why did the movie disappoint on the very important level of narrative? If you're a filmmaker and you want to write a good story, it's because they really didn't care about the story this time. They just worried about action sequences to keep you there paying attention so they could give you these messages subliminally. You don't like it when we talk about God? You don't like to go to church because they say that, oh, all they do at church is ask for your money. Well, at least they ask, and you don't have to give them any money if you don't want. You have to actually pay the Hollywood industry so they can preach to you, and you sit there willingly for 2.5 hours so they can brainwash you. So when it comes to the third level of a movie, that is the one thing that is always there, what are we going to say? No surprise here. Terrible. 2 thumbs down. So overall, Mission Impossible Fallout. Bad movie with great action sequences, but a bad story, bad storytelling, bad message, bad agenda. Nothing surprising here. So have you seen Mission Impossible Fallout? Are you gonna go see it? Sorry to spoil it for you, but you were warned. It was in the description, dude. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. Go over to the fan page, like, share, subscribe, and until next time, movie fans, I'll see you at the movies.